day here in Boston. We are ready for a parallel run of this, the 2017 Chevy Bolt EV, and this, the 2020 Chevy Bolt EV. The previous test up in cold weather to Maine was one car at a time, and there could have been potentially some wind resistance issues I didn't know about. We had a few comments, you know, helpful suggestions on things we can look at. This one has 31,000 miles on the clock. That one has coming up to 5,000, so there's a big difference in terms of tyre wear. This one has had, I think, 2 new tyres just from punctures. But the idea is this is going to be a day in the mid-50s, so very much a spring day, clear, no precipitation. The road conditions should be good. We'll see how many miles we cover. Obviously, given the situation, we don't want to go too far from home, and this is really about getting the family out to nature as well as doing a bit of a dual test at the same time. So, but everything will be the same other than, you know, the age of the car, the chemistry of the pack. This one has longer range and you know, a slightly higher capacity for that reason. And in the cold weather test, which obviously was separate runs, as I say, this one did better than this one. Managed to go more miles with less energy consumed. So we'll everything's reset. I think we'll take a look at the screens here quickly in each one, and then we'll be on the road. Let's go. This is the 2020, and one of the things I need to do to offset, or just make it similar, is pump these up. We've had this one sitting in the driveway not doing much because it's trying to save the mileage while we still have several thousand miles left on the 2017. So we'll get these up to around 41, maybe 42 psi. Okay, so tyres pumped up, negligible draw there, 41 across the board, pretty happy with that. And if we get into the other car, same again. So I will leave these both as they are. Both have got 0.1 kilowatt hours used, so that shouldn't be any issue. Tyre pressure's off, of course. Pump that one up again before we leave here to get these closer to 41 on each one. We're at an angle here, so the pressure on some tyres is less than others. You can see the temperature up here, 54 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're comfortable. It's only going to get better as the day goes on. Spring here in New England, and let's jump in the 2020 Bolt EV. You can see here on the GOM 218 miles versus the 240 miles in the 2017 Bolt EV. That's down to this car, the 2020, having done more kind of highway and cold weather miles than the recent driving of the 2017, which has been on local roads and in warmer weather. So disregard that, really. That's going to change. This one should go either up a little bit or kind of hold as we start to drive out. And we would expect to see this one go down a little bit from where it's at right now. But we'll see. We'll try and get at least halfway through the pack. And there we go. We'll be off on the road. First stop is 41 miles away. Let's go. So unfortunately that place isn't open, but we'll go to another that I had on my list. But here's what's happening in the 2017 so far. 41 miles driven, 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour. Tyres warmed up a bit with the driving. We're at 12.3 kilowatt hours used. And still in the 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Very different conditions, some fast highway driving, some local. That's what we get. Let's take a look at the 2020. A bit less energy. It's basically the same mileage.
Now can I use it?
This one was a bust, but we got some data and we will head off to Wachusett Reservoir instead. Wachusett Reservoir. We have the 2020 right beside us, and we are both level pegging here after almost 60 miles on 4 miles per kilowatt hour. Very mixed driving, some highway speeds up to close to 70 miles an hour, a lot of 50s, 55 miles per hour. So this is the 2017. If you're ever unsure, check the mileage odometer in the bottom left there, 3,259 miles. That could only have been done on older car. So we're getting no real influence except from outside temperature, which even at 50 degrees and into the spring temperatures is still being dragged down a little bit. We get minus almost 3 out of 5 here, and in the other car you'll see the difference, the score out of those miles. But this is the bit where we were driving the local roads round to the reservoir, and we've used 100% driving and accessories, 15.3 kilowatt hours, and as I say, almost 60 miles. So let's take a look and see how the 2020 has fared. And from the 2017, glistening in the sun, to the 2020. So 59.5 miles, 4 miles per kilowatt hour. Pressure's really ramping up in the heat and the driving. And there, 15 kilowatt hours used, again, all driving and accessories. And we're getting a little bit of benefit from technique like the other one. This one does read some drag on terrain, but it's only 1.6 miles, so nothing big there. And outside temperature is also very little drag. But for the moment, we're going to get some sunshine, recharge some batteries on devices rather than cars, and see if we can check out a route down to the Wachusett Reservoir over there. So yeah, I finished a nice 2-hour hike or so around the reservoir. Now we'll head for some snacks. We've switched cars, as you can tell. This is the 2020, and they will now drive that one, and we will go in this one.
Continue on I-90 East for 21 miles.
And so we need to think the logic of civil rights legislation.
Okay, so post dinner here and post trip, this is the 2017's usage. 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour, 119 miles remaining now. That keeps going up and down, so this is a little bit of a moving target, just dropped from 120 to 119, but we'll compare that with the 2020 in a minute. And we're at just over half of the pack used. That's 31 kilowatt hours, the better part of, to do 130 miles. And same temperatures here pretty much. We've held 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit most of the day, so it's been in a, as far as this tells us, a slight drag, -2 out of 5, which is different to the miles that are registered on this. We'll look at the drag on that in a little bit. Okay, so from the 2017 Bolt EV to the 2020, and the numbers are very similar. They went to a different drive-through than we did on the way back, but they're in the same plaza, so it's the best. Near as makes no difference. 31 kilowatt hours used to go 129 miles, also 100% driving and accessories, just like the 2017. And that is 52% of the battery remaining, so that's about right. Another couple of kilowatt hours and we'd be at 33, which would then be half of a 66 kilowatt hour battery. So not that it needed confirming, but we have that extra in the pack here, which as far as the GOM is concerned at this point, gives us what is 9 or 10 miles more range. That has held steady. It is 129 miles to go, so we really are right in the middle of the pack here. We've driven 129 and we have another 129 to go as far as this is concerned. That is bang on. 259 is the EPA estimate, and so that one, the 2017 would be slightly outperforming itself, slightly under 50%, with still having 120 left. If it got that, we'd be closer to above 240, which is good. That's a bit above its EPA range, and this one is pretty much bang on if it's going to get 258 miles. If that holds, of course. This is only the halfway point, so we would have to see if that actually gets that. But this has been a fair mix of driving. I'd say probably 25-30% highway, fast highway, well 25% fast highway, interstate, maybe 35% slower highway. So the route 2 that we took was, you know, it's officially 55 miles per hour, but you go, you know, people go faster than that, so it's somewhere between 50 to 65 miles an hour. So, you know, a mix of driving in spring. And again, this is also showing us a slight drag here, much less than the 2017 in terms of where it is on the spectrum, but again, you don't really know what that means in terms of that plus or minus 5 score that the 2017 has used. Technique is good, that's some of the slower roads. Terrain held us back a little bit, but again, this isn't directly comparable. The biggest screen we can see is this one, and looking at the same 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour. And that's where we are. Halfway point. Let's see what we do next. So here we are in the 2017, starting out on the day 2 of testing. 33.3 kilowatt hours used, 140 miles driven. Got 107 left on the GOM, which is going to give us nicely above the EPA range now, if that holds, but we'll see. We'll drive this one first, we'll do the loop that I've planned out, about 60 miles, and then we will hop in the 2020 and see what that can do. To our local interstate here, I-95. After, let's see, what was that? Coming up on 35 miles driven, should get a good 10-15 miles left to get back home. Efficiency is trending down from 4.2 to now 4 miles per kilowatt hour. Obviously, this is the highest speeds we've done on this trip, pretty much. Been around normal highway speeds, 73 to 75 miles an hour, trying to cruise at that. 45 miles left on the GOM, so this won't be quite as fast around here. I would guess it'll be a bit more congested, and then we'll hop off, get home, and digest what the numbers look like. Okay, results then. That's actually really good. We've ticked back up over the last 10 miles of local driving to get home. Back as low was 4.0 miles per kilowatt hour on the extended stint of highway driving. And then the last 10 miles or so, it's just ticked back up to 4.1. Let's see how much we used. 47.2 kilowatt hours used, so we're above, probably close to 20%. You can see the difference between highway efficiency, quicker interstate speeds right here, then getting back onto the slower interstate where there was a bit more congestion, and then the local roads in the last 10 miles or so. That's an interesting little graphic. Outside temperature again, not too much of a drag, but it still shows how much room there is for improvement as we get into summer. So the range will keep going, getting better and better until we hit a point where we start using the AC, and then it will kind of level off a little bit. I'm going to go out and do the same run of about 50 miles now, exactly the same stuff. There's no real wind here, you know, still 3-4 miles per hour tops. So that's where we are. I'll take some photos of this and we'll do exactly the same in this one. So just as a guide, the route we took was all the way up here on Route 3 up to Lowell, took I-495 north all the way up to the intersection with 93, came back down 93 down to 95 and just inside the I-95 belt of Greater Boston with about 10 miles local driving to get home. So that's exactly the same route we'll do now. It's moderately warmer, can't control that. This is not accurate as we looked at before. This is about 5 or 6 degrees more in this car just because it's facing the sun here. We'll see what that looks like as we get on the road again. But let's not waste any time. Let's get moving and make it as close a test as we possibly can. 190.5 miles driven, 47.1 kilowatt hours used. See the same trend, last 10 miles local, previous interstate. Slight drag on temperature, but not much, possibly even less than the other one. But same deal, got that back from 4.0 miles per kilowatt hour to 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour on 190 miles. We have 63 miles left on the GOM. And that's that. Level pegging, 62 degrees Fahrenheit, so slightly warmer, but essentially we are very similar to Mr. 2017 here. We'll look at the numbers, we'll get in the app and see the percentages, but the biggest difference, obviously, more range left there. That's going to be closer to 30%, I would think, somewhere between 25 and 30%, whereas the 2017 had about 20% left. We will confirm those numbers. And that's the test. Spring efficiency, range, and all that comes with it.